Hello and welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're diving into a story, a love story, really, that's just captivated people for ages.
It really has.
We've got some amazing sources lined up to help us unpack this question that comes up so often. Okay, why didn't Radha become Krishna's wife?
hmm
And this isn't just about romance. It's packed with deep spiritual meaning, ancient wisdom. So our mission today is to explore all those layers, the devotion, the connection that go way beyond our usual ideas about relationships.
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. And like you said, the answer, or maybe the exploration itself,
Yeah,
it pushes us beyond how we normally think about connection and love. It's a really unique lens.
totally. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Let's set the scene, understand where this connection even comes from, because it's definitely more than just a simple story.
Right.
Our sources give us this vivid picture of Krishna, born in Mathura, his famous Leela, that divine play happening in Gokul and Vrindavan. Beautiful places,
hmm
enchanted. And then eventually he establishes his kingdom way over in Dwarka. So that's Krishna's journey, in brief.
Okay.
Then there's Radha. She's introduced, yeah, as a gopi, one of the cowherd girls in Vrindavan, but the sources really emphasize she was, well, something more.
Something more. Yeah, that's intriguing phrasing.
It is. And there's this one part that really stands out, how when Krishna played his flute, Radha would just lose herself completely, drawn purely to that sound. It hints at something extraordinary right away.
Absolutely. A connection beyond the ordinary.
And that's exactly what the sources say. This wasn't, an ordinary love. They describe it as the meeting of one soul with another.
Oh.
Yeah. And here's the really crucial bit where it departs from convention.
Yeah.
This love is explicitly called out as not marital. The term used is vyahik.
Not Vihik. Okay. So not bound by marriage in the way we understand it.
Exactly. Instead, it's described as pure, infinite, completely surrendered. Like, can you imagine a bond with absolutely zero ego? No mine or yours.
That's hard to even conceive of
Yeah.
fully. A complete merging.
Right. A beautiful unity that just exists outside all those structures we put on relationships.
What's so fascinating there is how that description immediately signals we're on different territory. Meeting of one soul, pure, infinite, surrendered. It's like a flag saying, okay, forget your usual relationship rules.
Yeah, it really
It
does.
tells you straight away this operates on a spiritual plane, not just a social one.
Mhm.
It perfectly sets up why marriage, as a societal construct, might not even be relevant here.
And that leads us right into the core mystery, doesn't it? Because this is where it gets really interesting.
Uh,
If the love was that deep, that pure, that all-encompassing, well, why didn't it end up in marriage? That's what we expect, right?
this is the standard narrative, yeah.
The spiritual viewpoint in our sources gives this profound answer. Their love was beyond marriage. It's not just brushing it off, it's actually challenging our definition of commitment.
Beyond marriage.
Yeah, and look at this contrast they draw. A typical marriage. That's seen as a bond for one birth, just this lifetime.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense in a legal or social context.
But the Krishna-Radha connection, our sources call it an infinite births bond, spanning countless lifetimes.
Infinite births.
Wow.
So if it's already infinite.
Exactly. Does a single lifetime contract even make sense? It almost feels redundant, doesn't it?
It really does. It makes the usual reasons for marriage seem quite small in comparison.
And Krishna himself says something incredibly powerful, quoted in the sources. Radha is my soul. I cannot be separated from her.
Radha is my soul. That's not just affection, that's absolute oneness.
It's a statement of inseparable spiritual unity. You can't marry your own soul, can you?
No, I suppose you can't. That puts it very clearly.
And this love is also held up as the perfect example of Nishkam Bhakti.
Ah, selfless devotion. That's a key concept.
A huge concept. Our sources explain Radha's love was so pure, the word used is nirmal, that it just didn't need any bond or custom.
Didn't need it. Interesting.
Yeah, it wasn't about ownership or ticking boxes for society or getting something back. It was just pure, unconditional giving. Devotion for its own sake.
So trying to formalize it with marriage might have actually diminished it,
Yeah.
taken away from that selfless quality.
That's the implication, yeah. Like putting a frame around something infinite. Why would you?
Mm. And if we connect this to the bigger spiritual picture,
Mm-hmm.
it's such a radical challenge to how we think about commitment today.
So.
Well, we often define relationships by legal ties, social recognition, maybe shared goals or benefits, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
But this Radha Krishna love, as it's presented here, it just exists outside all of that, completely beyond those human structures.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, maybe the deepest, truest forms of love don't actually need a certificate. Maybe they transcend the very structures we try to impose on them. It's quite profound.
That is a powerful thought to chew on. And speaking of profound ideas, let's look at another really interesting detail. The sources call it the Tetavagyan, the spiritual interpretation.
Okay, the deeper meaning.
Yeah. Have you ever noticed how often we say Radha Krishna? Radha's name comes first, not Krishna Radha.
Now that you mention it, yeah, that's true. Radha Krishna is very common.
So why is that? It seems like a small thing, but spiritually, it's huge.
Okay, I'm curious. What's the interpretation?
Well, according to these sources, to truly grasp Krishna's love, you actually have to understand Radha first. She's like the key, the pathway.
Ah, so she represents the journey to that love.
Exactly. She's the path of love, and Krishna is the result of that love, her devotion, her complete surrender. That is the spiritual path. And Krishna's response, his being, is the destination.
I see. So the order reflects the process, the spiritual dynamic itself.
Mm.
Radha first, then Krishna. Path, then goal.
Precisely. It's symbolic of their roles in this whole cosmic Leela.
That makes a lot of sense.
And this idea really reinforces why marriage means societal rules and why their love was just beyond those rules.
Right, because its purpose wasn't social conformity.
Not at all. It was, as the source puts it, a union of only devotion, sacrifice, and unique love. It wasn't looking for society's stamp of approval.
It was self-contained, self-validating in its spiritual depth.
Exactly. It existed as this pure expression of divine connection. Putting human constraints on it would just limit it, make it smaller than it was.
This raises a really important question, I think, for all of us listening.
Yeah.
What does true love, or maybe divine connection, look like when you strip away all the societal expectations? When it's purely about devotion, about surrender. Imagine a bond that finds its strength not in a title or a piece of paper, but just in its own spiritual reality.
This interpretation really invites us to think outside our usual boxes, doesn't it?
It really does, to consider connections that maybe don't fit our neat categories but are incredibly meaningful anyway.
Yeah. Raw, unadulterated,
Yeah.
divine.
Which brings us nicely to the big takeaway, the Suksham Sikh, the subtle teaching from this whole deep dive.
Next time you find yourself wondering, why didn't they get married? Maybe remember this. Love doesn't always have to end in marriage.
Right.
Sometimes it's just so pure that it doesn't need a name or a bond. It's a good reminder that our human definitions can be pretty limiting when we're talking about the divine.
Very true. We try to fit everything into our framework.
And the sources keep coming back to this idea of Leela, divine play, cosmic drama. This isn't just history class, It's not a biography to be analyzed only with logic. It's a dance, a spiritual teaching through story.
A performance with a purpose.
Exactly. And the sources are clear. To really get this particular love, you need faith in the heart, not logic.
Shraddha, faith, devotion, yeah.
Sure. It's not something you can just intellectually figure out and put in a box. It's something you feel, you experience, you embrace with an open heart.
And connecting that ancient wisdom to, our lives today. It's a fascinating challenge, isn't it?
How so?
Well, what could it mean for your perspective, for anyone listening, on love, on connection, maybe even on your own spiritual path, to really consider that some bonds are just beyond formalization, beyond society's approval?
Yeah.
It kind of invites us to cultivate that shraddha, that heartfelt faith, when we approach the deepest kinds of love.
Yeah.
Maybe rely less on just logic. It suggests some truths are felt, maybe more than they're reasoned.
That's beautifully put. So wrapping up this deep dive, the key insight really is that Radha and Krishna's love stands as this powerful example, right? A bond so deep, it just shatters our usual definitions and rules.
Absolutely. Transcends them completely.
It's a love that demands a different kind of understanding, one based more on faith, on feeling, than just cold, hard logic. And like we said, the sources emphasize you need shraddha, that faith and devotion in your heart, more than you need logical arguments to truly grasp it. It's an invitation to experience.
If only of knowing.
Yeah. And hey, for our next deep dive, we're actually going to stick with this incredible story. We'll be digging into the secret of the Bansuri.
Krishna's flute.
Exactly. And specifically, why did Krishna only play his flute for Radha? Another layer to explore.
Ooh, that sounds fascinating. Looking forward to it.
Me too. So until then, as our source so beautifully says, Prem Karo, Bhakti Rako, or Bolte Radhe Radhe.